Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at a terrific update in the Season 18 balance patch, and that is AQUA being given to Goodra. Goodra has always had pretty good stats and a pretty good moveset outside of its terrible bait move, Muddy Water, but now it gets a way better bait move in AQUA. This gives it way more consistency in its meta matchups and catapults it to becoming one of the best dragon types in the entire Great League, basically competing evenly with Shadow Dragonair. For Goodra, I am actually running weird IVs. I'm running an attack weight. If you reach at least 122 attack, there's an attack breakpoint versus Lickitung that allows Goodra to win the 1 shield and the 2 shield. Hopping into the first match, leading Shadow Magnezone into Giratina Origin. I'm going to stay in, fire off the Wild Charge, deal massive damage, and now save switch into Gligar, and my opponent is going to respond with a non-Shadow Abomasnow. This is really good. I need to bait out the Ice type, and doing so with Gligar is going to put me in a pretty nice position to hopefully free up Goodra to sweep in the endgame. Since they're non-Shadow, they're almost always going to run Icy Wind, so I'm just not going to shield. I'm going to let that through, and now just send back in the Magnezone. Magnezone is going to fire off the Mirror Shot. This is super effective damage onto the Abomasnow, but Mirror Shot, not the strongest move ever, so they are able to withstand that damage. I'm just going to let this go and farm down with the Goodra. I actually survive on like 1 HP, in comes the Goodra, and it gets the farm down. The opponent still does have a move loaded on the Giratina Origin. They send in the Giratina, so whatever they have in the back, they want to grab a shield first. I shield up the Shadow Ball in the back. It's Registeel. This is a matchup that Goodra can actually win, but it's a matchup that is IV dependent on the side of the Goodra. I fire off the Aqua Tail. The question will be as well is, do I get debuffed and do they go for the Zap Cannon? I call it. It's the Zap Cannon and I get debuffed, and suddenly things are looking dire. I'm firing off the Aqua Tail, but this is now debuffed. It's not going to be doing nearly as much damage as it typically would. I'm farming up. I try for the catch and I'm unsuccessful. My opponent shows great patience. The question will be now, can they re-debuff me? No, they don't get the debuff. It all comes down to this. They have to catch to win. If they don't get the catch, I win the game. Goodra makes it to another Aqua Tail. They do not get the catch. This is going to KO the Registeel. All that's left in the back is the low health Giratina. Goodra gets the farm down and takes the win. We've got a battle of shadows in the next match. Shadow Magnezone versus Shadow Venusaur. I save switch into the Shadow Gligar. They stay in, allowing me to outpace and grab a shield with the Aerial Ace. They're going to throw one more Vine Whip, go for the Frenzy Plant, and I'm more than happy to shield back. I'm expecting them to switch out, and they do. In comes Guzzlord. Guzzlord farming up energy. No baits here. I'm going straight for the dig. I want to guarantee heavy damage or a shield. The opponent commits the shield. I continue to farm up, and I'm able to make it to dig number 2. This will come close to KOing here. The dig gets them low. Is my switch timer up? No, it's not. I would have loved to switch into the Goodra and try and snipe them mid-Dragon Tail, but unfortunately, it's not to be. I send in the Magnezone. My goal here is just to sacrifice the Magnezone, basically, and then let Goodra up a shield, win the game. So Crunch is going to pick up the knockout. In comes Goodra. Let's see what they have in the back. In the back, they have a Shadow Whiscash, and this is one of the reasons why having Goodra can be quite nice, is you have that Power Whip coverage to absolutely crush the Mud Boys. They go for the Scald. They're now going to send in the Venusaur. Venusaur will fire off the Frenzy Plant. I can commit the shield, and I'm just going to farm up to a point where I know that I'm going to be able to make it to the Power Whip versus the Whiscash. So I can go for the Aqua Tail, pick up the KO. In comes the Whiscash, and unfortunately for Mr. Cash, it is all over. Double super effective Power Whip picks up the KO, and I'm able to take that win. Moving into the next match, leading Shadow Magnezone into Shadow Feraligatr. Opponent safe switches into Lickitung, and this is the matchup we were talking about earlier. This matchup is particularly made better by the fact that I'm running attack weight Goodra, as my Dragon Breaths do 4 damage per Dragon Breath instead of 3. I win the 1s if I'm able to land a Power Whip, and in the 2s, I win straight Aqua Tail. My opponent commits the shield. I'm going to be shielding back, and then I'm going to have a choice to make. If I expect them to double shield, then I'm going to go for the Aqua Tail. I'm farming up here. I go for the Aqua Tail, expecting them to shield, but in hindsight, this is just a misplay, because my opponent calls it. I'm forced to go down a shield, and this is really not ideal. I definitely should have Power Whipped there, as I'm able to get the farm down and keep switch, but I can't make it to the Power Whip. So a bit of a misplay there by me. As we can see, Goodra has the ability to win the 1s, but you do have to Power Whip there. In the back, oh no, it's a Gliscor. I do have Gligar though. I'm down a shield and down energy, but Night Slash does not hit very hard. They go for the Night Slash. They get the boost. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's just game over right there. That's really unfortunate. I fire off the Aerial Ace. That's going to get them low. They're actually saving the shield for the Feraligatr. I mean, Feraligatr just makes a Hydro. I don't think I can double up here with the Magnezone. Yeah, I can't. Magnezone, I can't even make it to a Mirror Shot plus the Wild Charge because they do get to the Hydro Cannon. So, unfortunately, my opponent is able to flip it and take the win, but I felt like that was a nice showcase of what the attack weight Goodra can do. Picking up a pretty decent lead in the next match, Shadow Magnezone into Bastiodon, and my guess is, due to the fact that they're staying in, this very well could be everyone's favorite team, the Bastiodon, Victreebel, and Wigglytuff. We've all seen it, and they throw on alignment as well. Oh, this is for sure a Victreebel in the back. Let's see it. All right, there's the Wigglytuff. I'm going for the Mirror Shot now. I'm debuffed, but Charm is going to be resisted here. They commit the shield. Now I'm going for the Wild Charge, and this is going to hurt. This Wild Charge is going to do a lot. Opponent double shielding the Wigglytuff. I'm going to send in the Gligar and go for the Aerial Ace. It's not on amazing timing, but I wanted to get this damage off before they got the debuff with the Icy Wind. So the Aerial Ace will connect. Opponent is going to be firing off the Icy Wind. Double super effective damage, so I am more than happy to shield and just look to overfarm as much as possible. I really thought about farming down, but I was worried they might barely survive that wing attack, so out of an abundance of caution, I decided to just go for the Aerial Ace. In comes the Bastiodon. Oh, it's for sure the Victreebel in the back. I'm going to farm up to a Dig plus an Aerial Ace. Oh, man. They are not going to be happy that I have this much energy, and there it is, right on cue, the Victreebel. Even if I didn't have this move, I mean, I have a Goodra. I win. I send in the Goodra, and the opponent is going to resign the match. It's hard to find much better of a feeling in Go Battle League than managing to beat that Bastiodon, Victreebel, and the Wigglytuff team. Tough lead in the next match. Magnezone into Annihilate. I save switch into the Gligar. Opponent sends in Lickitung, and my Dig is shielded. If you're able to land the Dig as the Shadow Gligar, the matchup becomes super flippable. But unfortunately, they shield the Dig, so I got shield advantage, but I don't have an amazing way to make a play for swap. My opponent goes for a Slam here. It does not KO. I have a very high rank Shadow Gligar. I believe it's the rank 22, so I'm able to hang on, make it to the Dig, and this could potentially set up Shadow Magnezone. Shadow Magnezone, if it can get a farm down here and leave with energy, Wild Charge is deadly into a lot in this meta. It's part of why I wanted to run the Magnezone as a part of this team, was because there's just so many water types out, and even if it's something that takes neutral, a neutral Wild Charge still hits incredibly hard. I'm at the back-to-back Wild Charges. Opponent calls the bait. They get sniped with the Goodra. In the back, they have Greedent, and this game is just over. I have a Wild Charge banked. I should be able to make it to double Aqua Tail on the Goodra, so I'm just in a very good position here. My opponent will go for the Body Slam. I'm going to be committing the shield, as you know what, that would get me a little bit low, and I just need to make it to the double Aqua Tail, as they're going to have to shield one of these, and then Magnezone wins CMP by about 1 billion attack, so we're in a very good spot there. Firing off the Aqua Tail. At this point, this damage isn't really needed. They were already in Wild Charge range. My opponent is able to get to the back-to-back on 1 HP, but again, the nice thing is, a Shadow Magnezone wins charge attack priority, so they do not get their move. The Wild Charge ends up being massive overkill, but we're able to get that win. Moving into the next match, leading Shadow Magnezone into Lickitung. Okay, this is not a bad spot to be in whatsoever. I'm just going to go for a Wild Charge and dip. Guarantee a shield or massive damage. So the Wild Charge, oh, that does so much damage. I'm going to send in the Gligar now. Gligar more than happy to absorb energy as they go for the Body Slam. A little bit of a lag there on the Gligar by 1 turn, but thankfully we're still able to outpace regardless, and the Aerial Ace will pick up the KO. What does my opponent want to send in? They send in their own Gligar. My opponent, unfortunately, does end up lagging here, so it looks like they came in a turn behind, which is a bit rough. I fire off the Aerial Ace. My opponent, again, just really, really unfortunate that the game appears to be lagging for them. They're just always a turn behind. And they have so much energy that they actually decide to throw here, probably just wanting to keep a little bit of HP there. But that mid game was definitely made a lot more complicated for them just by the fact that their game was lagging quite a bit. I send in the Goodra. I'm going to commit the shield. They go for the Aerial Ace. I get the farm down. What do they have in the back? It's Annihilate. Okay. This should just be a win, basically. I'm firing off this Aqua Tail. Opponent more or less has to shield this. And the moment they do, the game is over because even if I can't win it with the Goodra, I can win it with the Magnezone. I let it go. It's the Night Slash. Night Slash not going to be enough. That's not going to cut it. Goodra firing off the Aqua Tail. That's going to get them plenty low, and we're able to get the Dragon Breath down. Moving to the next match, Shadow Magnezone versus Lantern. Farming up energy here, opponent. Oh no, they throw on alignment, giving Magnezone an entire Volt Switch for free. I continue to farm up. Opponent is going to save switch into their own Goodra, and I'm firing off the Mirror Shot. Mirror Shot will do some pretty okay chip onto the Goodra. I'm going to be firing off the Wild Charge as well. I don't know how much damage this does. It does not knock out, so I actually switched to my own Goodra to snipe their energy. In the back, they have Dragonair, and now we get to see this matchup straight up. I do start with a little bit of a health disadvantage because it took a couple Dragon Breaths from their Goodra, but as you can see, Goodra holds up very, very well versus the Shadow Dragonair. I can send in the Magnezone now. I'm going to commit the shield as the Volt Switch did go through. My opponent is going to switch into the Lantern. Lantern going to be baited with the Mirror Shot. I'm baiting here to entice them to throw sooner. And my opponent is going to throw right away as the threat of potentially making to a Wild Charge forces their energy, and they don't leave with any residual energy, which means this game is just a win for the Gligar. Shadow Gligar able to absorb a Surf. It's not going to be a problem. And at this moment, honestly, I had forgotten just how low the Dragonair was, so I farm up to the point where I'm one wing attack away from the Aerial Ace, thinking that I need an Aerial Ace to get the KO, but as it turns out, one wing attack just KOs the Dragonair, so I didn't need to overfarm at all. Hopping into the next match, leading Magnezone into the Empoleon. Opponent save switches into Goodra, and it is very cool to see other people using the Goodra as well. I'm just going to Wild Charge and then dip into my own Goodra. So I'm basically going to be a wall to my opponent's energy here because almost everyone's going to be running Aqua Tail and Power Whip. It does also have access to Draco Meteor, but having Power Whip around for the ever-present Whiscash is quite nice. In comes the Empoleon. Empoleon farming up, trying to fire off the Power Whip on his best timing as I can. Unfortunately, it looks like I did let him move through. The opponent is going to get a full Steel Wing farm down. That's a bit uncomfortable. I send in the Magnezone. I'm going to be shielding, as of course the Volt Switch does go through, but a Hydro Cannon I cannot afford to take, and they're firing off another Hydro Cannon. Oh boy. All right, I'm double shielding. I'm committing to the Magnezone in the back. It's a Giratina, and this is going to be an extremely tough game to win. I go for the Mirror Shot. They let it go. This is not looking good. I'm farming up energy. My opponent still has yet to throw, and I'm going for the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace into the Giratina will be shielded. I continue to farm. Opponent firing off energy here. This should be the Shadow Ball. Opponent, oh, they're running Dragon Pulse. Oh, man. And this game is going to be really tough. I can't give the Empoleon farm. I have to try and go for the perfect undercharge and go for the simultaneous KO, but they live on 1 HP. If that undercharge had allowed a simultaneous KO, then I can win the game, but it's just off by 1 HP. And unfortunately, that's enough of a margin of error for me to lose. We've got the Battle of the Shadows. Shadow Magnezone versus Shadow Gallade. Shadow Gallade, so lightning fast getting to charge attacks, but that does come at a cost. It's very, very glassy. They bait with the Leaf Blade. I'm baiting back with the Mirror Shot. Mirror Shot bait does get the shield from the Gallade. I switch into the Gligar. Opponent banks a ton of energy, and they send in Shadow for Alligator. I go for the dig. Oh no, but I overfarm. I play to a CMP tie that I do not win. I just should have thrown one sooner. This is just unfamiliarity with how fast Gator gets to its moves. I land the dig and I'm able to farm down, which is quite nice. They have so much energy on the Gallade, but I don't quite think a Leaf Blade knocks out from here, so they kind of have to send in their third, which is going to be Empoleon. I farm up past the dig. I'm going for the Aerial Ace bait. The Aerial Ace is able to grab the shield. I bank the dig for later, send in the Magnezone. My opponent immediately forced to go for the Hydro Cannon, as otherwise I would make the Wild Charge. Now I can send back in the Gligar, and Gligar, I'm perfectly fine with dig either KOing the Empoleon or KOing the Gallade. In comes the Gallade. Gallade has the back-to-back charge attacks loaded, but I think Goodra is tanky enough to survive a close combat, but we don't end up finding out as the Dragon Breath is able to get the snipe. Hopping to the final match, the Battle of Electric Types, the Shadow Magnezone leading into the Raichu. Raichu did get an update with this season as well, as Brick Break is now going to be debuffing the opponent's defense. The opponent save switches into Goodra. It genuinely doesn't surprise me to see a lot of Goodra. Goodra is just a very strong pick overall, and the fact that it's way more consistent now with Aqua Tail, and the fact that if you run the attack weight IVs like I have, And the best way to check those is if you input your IVs on PvPoke, it like in the attack tool, then it'll show like your attack, defense, and HP, and then you can see, is it 122? 122 is the main like stat that you're looking for there. They go for the Brick Break. That doesn't do a whole lot of damage because it does not get same type attack bonus. I'm looking for the farm down. Oh, they're able to snipe with the Whiscash. Whiscash, a bit awkward now that Goodra is out of the way. Like, the team is structured that it's a bit ABA weak to Whiscash, but honestly, Shadow Gligar into Whiscash isn't awful. I'm thankfully not getting debuffed by that Scald. Firing off the Dig. Dig does so much damage. I farm up, and I get the catch onto the Magnezone, and this is just game over. They go for the Scald. They're going to get a Mudshot farm down. I'm farming up with the Gligar. Over farming. Here, this is only a Mud Bomb, but I second guess myself. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to throw the game because I miscounted. So I shield. It is only a Mud Bomb, but I doubted myself there. I could have kept a 1 shield still in my pocket, but either way, win's a win. Brick Break, not going to do nearly enough damage, and we're able to take the game. All in all, I am extremely impressed with Aqua Goodra after using it. When I initially looked through the move updates when they first dropped, Aqua on Goodra didn't really register as something that I should be paying attention to, but after deep diving and looking at it, I started to realize more and more how powerful this thing can be. And I genuinely do believe that when it's allowed in play Pokemon tournaments, we are going to see Goodra run, and I think people are going to have some pretty nice results with it. The Shadow Dragonair is still the king of the shield everything, double shield and go for switch type strategy, but where the Goodra has its strength is the Goodra can actually hold its own in the zeros, whereas anytime there's a Shadow Dragonair in the zeros, you can very safely assume that it is just a dead Shadow Dragonair. For a lack of a better word, is the Dragonair is not going to be around for very long because it just can't take a hit, whereas Goodra with the extra bulk can still do quite well, and much like the Shadow Dragonair that has a very useful defense bulk point versus Lickitung to help you beat Lickitung, Goodra has an attack break point with the 122 attack that can help you do well in that matchup. So I do think that Goodra is something that we're going to be seeing a lot of in this new season, and then competitively, once the people who do compete are able to get the attack weight spread, I do think that we're going to be seeing it in competitive play Pokemon tournaments as well. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.